the state of the church requires that I speak about negative things, the negatives that are going on in the church today. Makes me think of the book of Jude, where Jude writes to believers saying that although he is very eager, the original language, the Greek, reflects this. I want to practice great eagerness or earnestness. I really want to talk about our common salvation, and as do I. I want to talk about the amazingness of the triune God. I want to talk about the centrality of the gospel and how it is all grace. It is all forgiveness and love from God in the person and work of Jesus Christ in his death and resurrection. I want to speak about these things. But Jude goes on and says, but I am writing to you so that you may contend for the faith that was once and for all delivered to the saints. You see, in the mind of Jude, he really longed for speaking about the grace in the gospel to believers, but because of a problem that is plaguing the church, he had to write about the negative. And of course, he, and as well as similar teachings in the book of 2 Peter, speaks about the false teachers that were happening. Now, in our day, I don't think it's false teachers. I think it's great worldliness. In my studies currently, I'm studying 1 Thessalonians, and I read about the sections on the normalcy and the requirement of sexual holiness among believers. There in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, about the necessity and the norm of Christian love, rather than radical individualism that we see today. That is, Christians not caring about other believers, living their own life, barely practicing any generosity, and certainly very little hospitality, that is welcoming others into their home, tending to those in need. And even in terms of sexual mores, I see and sense more and more that even among professing Christian brothers that I do think are born again, I would think, they don't seem to me as false believers, but even then I see a lack of urgency in putting away sexual sin, in this case pornography. I hear of another story more recently about a believer that committed adultery. And again, these things happen. And not just the adultery, but how much of it is the little compromises with someone that's not your spouse in sharing intimacy and emotional connection and secret interactions and fantasizing in your mind. There's a lack of urgency here today, here in the Western church, that we no longer have that zeal that Paul commends the Thessalonians for in terms of purity. God has called us not to impurity, but holiness. That it is the will of God that is our sanctification. Sexual purity. Where is that urgency? Where is our love? Where is our fervor towards sharing the gospel? And so this is a call for reformation. This is why I created Church Reform Today. This is why I created this channel a year ago. This is why I felt led by the Lord with the agreement with my wife to transition out of a local church ministry in order to put a little bit of time in spreading these ideas so that the North American church might reform and return back to God. Will you respond to this call?